Eighth-seeded Toronto Maple Leaf loses to the ninth-seed Columbus Blue Jackets 3-2 in exciting series. Here to talk about the series is Toronto Maple Leaf superfan and fellow YouTuber Steve Dangle. Steve, after last night's loss, how you holding up, bud? Tell me, what is the feeling in the GTA right now? I know you're in Oshawa. What's the feeling in Toronto and the greater Toronto area today?
I can tell the Habs fan growing up in you is just adoring this, loving this.
Hold on. Actually, I gotta be honest. I like Toronto. I like their team. I like Austin Matthews. Listen, I think people are going to be a lot harder on them than they should be. Their top players worked really, really hard. It's not like they didn't show up, so you can't do that. It's just they're expected to win, and it just didn't happen. So it's not like I'm rooting for Columbus to beat them. I think it was a good test. I want to hear what you think, though, Steve. You're the Leafs fan, born and bred. You're Dangle. Where you at? Come on, I want to hear from you, man.
Here's where I'm at, and a lot of people were like, after they saw my video from last night, they're like, "Oh, okay, this is bad, actually." Because I blew up last year because I thought through 5 games against Boston, they were the better team. And they were up 3-2. They had 2 chances to finish them. Game 6, they had a chance to finish them on home ice. They blew that. And game 7, I thought was their worst game of the series. So there was a lot of anger after that loss because it was like they had them and they just couldn't pull it off. With this year against Columbus and the 70 games that came before that, right? Because everyone's like, oh, you can't just base it on a 5-game series. With the series against Columbus and the 70 games that came before that, there was this weird peace I felt because it seemed obvious to me that, oh, they're just not good enough. You know what I mean? So last year it seemed like, oh, maybe if they just change this or that, or they like these little tinkering changes, it doesn't feel like that anymore. It kind of feels like they done goofed and some heads might roll.
For listeners who don't know, Steve is the author of This Team is Ruining My Life, But I Love Them. After the heartbreaking loss, Steve, there's the book. Go out and get it, fans. Do you still love them today? Do you still love them today?
Man, but first of all, I got to say, I was on the bestsellers list. I fell off, and then they lost game 7 of Boston. I went right back on. And I checked today, and it's number 1 on Amazon for hockey books in Canada. So I don't know. I'd much rather them still be in the playoffs, though. You know I'm going to be back, PK.
Okay.
Like, I can never leave my team.
No, there's no question. But let's hold on for a second. Let's keep it real here, okay? And it's one of my questions. I'm going to get to it later. But dude, Tavares hits the post, right? Oh. No. Hold on. So let's talk about it because everybody wants to just look at the whole game and look at the score and they lost. They got shut out, and that's not the story of the game. The story of the game, there were opportunities. There's no puck luck. They needed some puck luck. Maybe they got all that puck luck in the comeback win. Maybe that's where it all came, but they needed some bounces. And let's be honest, Korpisalo, Austin Matthews in the slot. Like Austin Matthews shoots that puck 50 more times in the back of the net. These are bounces that they just didn't get. So you got to call it what it is. Korpisalo stood on his head. He played very, very, very well. I don't know. I give the Leafs, I got a sensitive spot for that team because they're a young group. They're good kids. They work hard. So, but hold on. Let's get into it a little bit more. Game 1, sure. Jackets shut Leafs out 2-0, right? Game 2, Leafs shut out Jackets 3-0. Game 3, Leafs blew a 3-0 lead. Game 4, the Jackets blew a 3-0 lead with 3.5 minutes left. What were your expectations going into Game 5? What did you think was going to go down? Because I got to be honest with you, there was no way I was making a prediction on anything. I stopped. After the first couple of games of playoffs, I said, you know what? For all these hockey analysts out there that get chirped in the locker room and at lunch, I'm not chirping anybody anymore because you can't. There's so much parity. But what did you think? What did you think about Game 5?
I don't know how anyone makes any money betting on hockey. Vegas makes it to the final in their first year. What do you
I know.
Who calls that?
I know.
Vegas almost went broke because of that. But honestly, watching them, they get shut out the first game. I'm like, you know what, though? If they just switch it up, I bet they chip away and they score. Game 2, they finally did.
Mm-hmm.
They almost get shut out in game 4, an elimination game, and somehow they turn that into 3 goals in 4 minutes. And then they get shut out in an actual elimination game. So my optimism that if they just keep chipping away, it just wasn't rewarded in an elimination game. And it's just like, what I was saying with the previous 70 games. All I've been doing all quarantine is watching reruns. And last night I saw another one. And I don't know how many more I can take.
Okay, so what do you think they could have done differently? Like, what do you think? You're watching the game. You watch them all year. Me specifically, obviously, I'm focused on my team. During the season, I don't watch a lot of hockey unless it's like a rivalry game and something happened before and I want to get the scoop, right? But you're watching the Leafs all the time. So what do they got to do differently? Tell me. I want to know. What do you think?
What was interesting, so Sheldon Keefe was getting called out a little bit because he made some weird decisions, right? Like he threw Andreas Johnsson in after many months of not playing. He loaded up the big line. He put Willie at center, which there's not many games this season where he began the game and played the entire game at center. Maybe he did it in a pinch if someone got hurt. What that game seemed like to me wasn't really what could they have done differently. It seemed like the Leafs organization kind of throwing the players into a sink or swim scenario because PK, sometimes, like, for example, 2016-17, the kids are playing great. How do they award them? You know what? We're going to go out at the deadline. We're going to get Brian Boyle to help the group, and we're going to make a run at the playoffs. This year, you know what their final game before the trade deadline was, PK?
What?
They lost to the emergency backup. And Kyle Dubas said, nuts to this. So what I think they did in game 5 was they were like, all right, we want to see what the big line can do going forward. It was a test for the rest of the lineup. That's why Andreas Johnsson was thrown in there, because he deserves that shot before they make any evaluations in the offseason. And I think they failed.
You know what? I think that when I watched it, I watched closely in game 5. Obviously I know John Tavares very well. Played with him World Juniors. I've known him since I was, since we were kids. Our parents went to school together.
I've seen the pictures.
I watched closely JT. I watched Austin Matthews. I watched Mitch Marner. I watched their core guys, right? Morgan Riley. Those guys left it all on the ice. Like I'm being honest. I'm not sugarcoating it. I don't have any reason to sugarcoat anything. I'm watching. They're trying their absolute hardest. Nobody was lagging. I'm watching their back checking. Guys are trying to block shots. Guys are getting in kitchens. They're forechecking hard. It's just, you watch these two teams and how they played. I watched that second goal and how it came for Columbus. They had full possession at the blue line. He fake turned up. I can't remember who the player was. He fake turned up and he weaks. No, it wasn't Foudy. Foudy was on the far side. This was on the bench side. I can't remember who the puck was. It could have been Dubois, but it didn't matter who it was because they all play the same way. They all understand. They get into that area. He tight turns, weak side rims it so that Foudy can pick it up on the other side. But the defenseman was pulled so far to the middle. That's why Foudy had so much time to walk in. So I think that in a series like that, it's going back and forth, back and forth. You knew it was going to come down to one play like that. And think about all the grade A scoring chances that the Leafs had. It took a smart weak side rim around the boards to create a little bit of time and space, a little bit of miscommunication in the D zone because of where guys were coming from. There was line changes, just a little bit of time and space. And just like that, that's the game. I think it's very, very tough to evaluate the whole team. I think their star players are still, watching them move the puck around though, man, on the power play, like
they're unreal.
There's no, I haven't seen a team do that, move the puck like they've moved the puck in a long time. So they're still a fun team to watch. Okay, let's get down to it though in the series that I think the deciding factor, 33 shots, absolute wall, Korpisalo. I mean, you can't get a puck past him, but everybody's going to look at the Leafs. You got to look at Columbus and the factors that help them win. Yes, the way they played together. All four lines are playing the same style of hockey, making sure pucks get deep, very disciplined, hard checking, forechecking, blocking shots, the Tortorella style. But at the end of the day, Korpisalo made huge saves and was a rock in net. So in my opinion, that's the difference. Listen, it's been 16 years. 16 years since the Leafs have won a playoff series. Do you have hope for next year?
How dare you?
Well, hold on. No.
PK
I'm
Subban.
on a podcast here. I'm not chirping. Listen to me. It's difficult. Listen, the NHL is a hard league to win in, man. Pittsburgh goes down to Montreal.
Oh, yeah?
It's not easy to win. I don't care who you got on your team. You need some bounces, man. Listen, a bounce one way or the other way, Toronto's up 3-1 in that game. And then it's a different game. Tavares scores on that empty net. If it doesn't hit the post, it's a completely different game. And those are bounces you need. So
PK, Toronto's number one export is smog. Its second is ifs. And it feels like that's all we've had, man. When is it going to be them? When is it going to be that? You can't tell me. PK, I told you, okay, you haven't had the internet for the past 2 weeks, right? You haven't had the internet for the past 2 weeks. I told you there was a team that blew a 3-0 lead and lost. And then the next game, they overcame a 3-0 deficit and won. You know it's the Leafs before I tell you.
Okay, but
I tell you a team lost to an emergency backup. You know it's the Leafs before I tell you.
Listen. The emergency backup, Carolina's a good team. Carolina's a very good team.
Columbus is a good team.
Carolina just swept the New York Rangers. Listen to me. Carolina is a real deal team. So before we even get into the goaltending thing, that's a that's a top 10 team in the league. That's a possibly top 5 team when they're playing the way that they want to play. So I'm not going to talk about that game, but what I will talk about is this. Them coming back after being up, or was it they blew a 3-goal lead, or Columbus? Yes, they blew a 3-goal lead to Columbus. Yep. And then when Columbus was up, come back and beat them. To me, that says more about the Toronto Maple Leafs right now as a team, and that they're closer to making that jump than a lot of people. A lot of people are going to try to find and pick holes with them. I think they're closer to making that jump than not. I think that, to me, I watched that game and I said, okay, these guys, they care. They're learning still, man. You got to lose before you can win. Like, it's every team. They're a young team. They're coming together. They got a good core. Listen, I'm more optimistic about the Toronto Maple Leafs. That's me.
PK, what's the most important thing to have on a hockey team? A good right-handed defenseman. Am I right? But like,
on that
heading
note,
into next year, heading into next year, they got a lot of questions.
Steve, we're definitely going to have you back on, and we're going to be talking Leafs for sure. Steve Dangle, ladies and gentlemen, to all my Ugly Duck podcast fans, Subaniacs watching, please thank Steve Dangle for coming, and make sure you subscribe. Steve Dangle is a good man. I've known you for a while, Steve. It's nice having you on the show. Thank you for coming on my podcast, man.
Hey, thanks for having me. Since the Nike days, we got to get hooked up with free shoes again.
Well, listen, I'm 3 stripes now. Maybe I can get you some nice 3 stripes. Sound good?
I saw your IG today. I was like, oh, okay.
Snap. Steve Dangle, ladies and gentlemen. Steve, sweet dreams, buddy.
Thanks.